Okay, really short one because I've been kind of slacking on these videos, and that's kind of the point of this. So, whenever you set goals or habits or things you want to continue doing, like new ideas or escapades, okay, anyways, things you want to do more of, right? Say you want to take up, I don't know, learning how to code. That is something that's going to have to be reinforced continually. It's not like a burst of motivation and then bam, you know how to code. Obviously, people know you have to continually improve day by day, build stuff up over time, all that. But the thing people tend to forget a little bit or need reminding of in the moment when they're deciding whether or not to actually do their new goal for the day is how often and like to what degree things need repetition, need reinforcement. So for easier things, like the way I think about it is kind of a barrier to entry for getting that thing done for the day. If it's something very easy to start and very easy to do, you should be doing that every day, maybe every other day. Don't give yourself like too much leeway on that. You start giving excuses for the really easy stuff, you're never going to get it done, right? That's just, it becomes impossible at that point. Whereas for some of the harder stuff, say you're doing, I don't know, marathon training, and in your schedule block you have like very intensive 13-mile runs. You're not going to be able to do that back to back unless you're like a very, very advanced runner, and in which case you should be doing other stuff anyways. So for some stuff you have to space out more, right? Like that's something that's kind of obvious. It can be like every 2 days, every 3 days, but you just have to make sure to remain consistent in that, and kind of in the same idea of like getting on it as soon as you can and making sure to reinforce it in the schedule that you've set up. And one last small idea that I think is really good is kind of changing the size of your activity. And that can mean a few different things. If you have a really big activity, say you want to start lifting, but it seems very tiring, just completely wipes you out the first time you go, break it up, make it smaller, chunk it into like smaller things. Maybe just, do isolations, do like one specific body part. Like you can change up your like split that you're doing, just something to make it so that it is more repeatable and more easy to jump into day by day, because then you will build up the habit more solidly. It'll be something you do and something you like choose as who you are, and that's a lot easier to do when it's like spread out, because then that bakes into who you are, as opposed to being like a one-time thing that just kind of gets shoved in there. Opposingly, or kind of similarly, for really short-term stuff, like really, really small stuff, you can try expanding those to become bigger things. And the benefit to that is you still have the very small day-by-day stuff you can do, but you also have like bigger, more grandiose things, stuff that makes you feel like what you're doing really does serve a meaning or purpose, like really shows the true magnitude of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's also really useful, right? Because then you won't be tempted to give up on the little stuff day by day if you think that doesn't give you any results. But in fact, with the bigger stuff, you can then see, boom, results, right? So those elements are just really useful to think about. Like, obviously, consistency is a difficult thing, but ideally it should be linear in most aspects. It should, consistency is something you should always strive to repeat and be honest with yourself in how you are repeating things. But obviously life gets in the way, so just make sure to be honest with yourself if there's something you could have done and didn't, or if there's stuff you have, like you did do and maybe shouldn't have, because sometimes that can happen too. So just know your limits, know how to push the boundaries of them, and that's how you will improve. And that works for anything. And again, you only push those limits most effectively when you're doing it a little bit incrementally, able to shift the goalpost each and every day a tiny bit, so that you eventually have made it much farther than you could have through one attempt at spiking things that just fizzles away. That's pretty much it. Whatever you're doing, get after it, have fun. Yeah, that's it. Bye.